Welcome to another arcade fix. Today we're in the arcade and we're going to be working on a Raw Thrills Batman. We have a pair of Batmans here that's linked together, and the one on the left, the monitor has gone blank. About a month ago it started giving me problems. It had some dark areas in the LCD backlit screen. And 2 weeks later, the one right next to it did the same thing. Identical. The several rows of the LEDs just went bad. So I'm guessing that since both of these games are the same age and been in the arcade now for 3 years, and I've had games that's been in here a couple years longer than these, I guess they just got a bad batch of LEDs in the monitor. So anyway, the one we're looking at right now, I've already taken that out and replaced the bad LEDs and fixed the monitor. Well, now this one has gone completely blank, so we're going to have to do the same thing. So as you can see, the game is up and running. All the computer control lights and everything are blinking. But how do we know that the monitor is the problem? Well, it's an easy way to find out. If the game is up and running and the monitor is running, we ought to be able to see the picture if we put light on it. So if we take a flashlight and put on the screen here, you can see around the edge of the light, if it'll focus in here. We should be able to see, there you go, we can see a faint picture because the light from the flashlight is shining through the LCD display and reflecting off of the backlit material behind it. So that's how you can tell whether or not your problem is with the backlights on the display. So I definitely know that this is the problem. So today we're going to go ahead and pull this monitor out, take it back to the home arcade where we can disassemble it, and I'll run you through the process of replacing the LEDs in this monitor. Okay, well, I moved the game away from the wall, unplugged it, and now what I have to do is remove this back cover, which is directly behind the monitor. I probably can get by without removing this, but it's a lot easier because I got to unplug the power and the monitor input from the monitor. Once I could leave this on and lay the monitor out, but it's a lot easier if you take this off because you might have to reach in from the back and push on the back of the monitor to get it to tip forward in order to bring it out the front of the cabinet. So what we have to do is take all these security screws out of here. So, and I got my power screwdriver for this. Why they put such long screws in this, I don't know, but they did. And they put quite a few in here too. Why so many, I don't know. It seemed like 4 or 6 would suffice, but I didn't design the game, so. All I can do is repair them when they break. Now, when we got these games, I wasn't here when they delivered them, so I don't know if they were new in the box. This game came out in 2013. And we've had them for, let's see, 3 years now, so it might have been about a year old when we got it. So it could have came from another location. Matter of fact, I'm thinking it did because some of these screws were cross-threaded and halfway in, or just barely in. I've already had this off one time before to make double sure that it had the type of monitor in it that the decal on the back here said. And it has a Mark Vision 42-inch LCD monitor, model number MT42W. So that's the monitor we're going to be working on. I've already confirmed that that is the monitor that's in this game. And that's the original type monitor that shipped with this game. Okay, that's all the screws. So now we just need to remove this panel. And this is the monitor. So let me get in here a little closer and I'll show you the power connections and the video input connections that we're going to have to take loose. Okay, so here's the only two connections we have to be concerned about with taking the monitor out. We have a standard power connector, which you just pull out, and it's just a standard computer type power cord that plugs directly into the back of the monitor. So we just set that down here. This one over here is the DVI connector. I think that's digital video interface, I believe. It also has a VGA input, but this computer has the DVI output, so the VGA input's not used. So we have the two little thumb screws you have, just like you have on any standard monitor, whether it's VGA or DVI, or I mean DVI. Loosen those and it comes right out. So yeah, this is the DVI input, and that's the type of cable that it's using. And of course this comes directly out of the PC computer, which I'm sure has a video card that has this output. So we'll just sit this right down in the game. Now that's all the connections we have to take loose. All these wires here are just wires that go up to the top of the game for the lighted Batman marquee and all the other blinky lights on the game. So now we can go around to the front and start taking the front apart. Okay, in order to get the monitor out the front of the cabinet, we have to disassemble the dashboard. So first we have to do is drop the control panel. Control panel has 4 security screws in the panel, so we need to remove those. And I'm just going to lay the screws down on the floorboard in the order that I take them out, because as soon as we get the monitor out, we're going to have to put all this back together, because I don't have a dedicated room where I can work on the games. It's right in the arcade, so we have to button everything back up so that people can't get inside the game. Which makes a little bit extra work, but it's not all that bad. It would be nice. Okay, I took one of those out, so. Now you have to get the last one, you have to kind of hold up on it because it's on a hinge, and as soon as you take this out, it will swing down. Which makes it real nice when you're working on the control panel, working on the steering mechanism, because you can get to it real easy. Okay, now that we got that down, we have to take the top dash off, and it has 4 screws in the front here, which I already took one out, and 2 screws in the back. So I'm going to take these 2 out the back first. And now we've got to get the rest of these out the front. And all these screws are the same, so it doesn't really matter where you put them. But I generally try to keep them in the same spot. Got one more over here. Okay, now all we have to do is just lift this up off and put it somewhere safe out the way for the time being. Okay, the next step, I got to get a short Phillips screwdriver. Be right back. Okay, well, what we need to do now is remove these 2 sets of LED lights here. And as you can see, one of the screws is already fallen out. So I'm gonna have to see if it's down here. I had one fall out on the other machine, and it stuck to the magnet on the speaker here, but I don't see this one. So possible they never put it in. Okay, well anyway, it's 2 sets of LED lights that light up the fake instrument panel. And it has 2 plugs here that you have to unplug. Both plugs are interchangeable, so you don't have to mark them, and they only plug in one way. So all we have to do is just unplug them. And since this is already loose, all I have to do is unscrew this Phillips head screw by hand. But if they were tight, that's why you needed the short Phillips screwdriver, so you can get up under here to take them loose. So I'm going to have to find me another one of these screws. Anyway, we take this panel off, and we don't need to put this back on until we're ready to put the monitor back in. So I'm just going to put it underneath here, and it'll stay there until we need it. And nope, I still don't see that screw, so I'm gonna have to find one. Okay, well I got plenty of time to do that, because we're not gonna be able to put this back in today, because like I say, we're gonna take it out and take it home, repair it, and then bring it back and install it. Okay, now I'm ready to go ahead and pull the monitor out. Now the monitor is bolted to a metal bezel, which is one piece all the way around, and it has a thick piece of glass between the bezel and the front of the monitor. The only thing holding it in are these 4 screws, 2 on each side. They're not security screws, but they're special flathead screws that have a Allen key head on them. Got one here and one down here. So we need to take all 4 of these loose, 2 on this side, 2 on the other side. Then we can go ahead and lay the monitor down and pull it out. Now, it's heavy. I don't know how much it weighs, but with that monitor glass and the metal frame and the weight of the monitor itself, it's quite a chore to finagle it and to get it out. You have to make sure you got a good grip on it. You don't want to drop it. And I've set up a portable table right here. So when I take it out, I'm going to pick it up and bring it over here and set it on this table. Okay, well let's go ahead and take it out. First I'm going to take the 2 screws out of the right side here. And these are machine screws that have threads on them that thread into the metal bracket. They screw directly into the metal bezel here. All right, I'm just going to set them right here on the control panel. All right, I'm going to take the bottom one out first. Now we don't have to worry about it falling out the back because the way the cabinet's built, it won't go out the back. But what you don't want it to do is fall out the front. Now, this has to pull out and drop down on the control panel in order to clear the corner where the speaker grill is right here. So it probably, if it leaned forward, I'm sure it would hit this and it wouldn't come out. But if it dropped down, then it could go ahead and fall right out. So, and I'm sure this is tempered glass, and you break the tempered glass and it would probably break the LCD screen and you would have a mess on your hands. So let's go ahead and take this last one out. Okay, it dropped back. So now what we have to do is try to get this out. And the easiest way to do it, you don't have enough room to get your fingers up here. I could grab this edge right here and pull it out and let it drop down. Well, let's try that. That might work pretty good. Okay, that worked pretty good there. That gives us enough room to get our hand up in here. Now we can lean it forward and it clears the speaker grill. So now what we're going to do is pick it up and take it over to the table. So we just lay it down, tilt it up in the back so I can get my hand under here, grab it kind of in the middle. And this thing is quite heavy. Okay, success. We now have it on the table. So now what we have to do is unscrew the screws from the bracket so that we can take the monitor off the monitor bezel. Okay, well this is the bracket right here, and they have 3 screws here, 3 Phillips head screws here, and holds this L bracket onto the monitor. Now you could just take these 3 nuts here loose and take the bracket off with the monitor. But this bracket, if you leave it in place, holds the safety glass that's in the monitor bezel here. It holds it in place, keeps it from coming out. And the monitor has a rubber seal around it that is going to be stuck to that monitor glass. So what we're going to have to do is prise up the monitor so that it breaks that seal so that we can pull the monitor off of the glass. So in order to do that, we're just going to leave the L bracket right on the monitor bezel, and we're going to take these 6 screws on this side and the 6 screws on the other side. We'll take those loose, and let me give you a close-up of them. So there's the stud and the nut that holds the monitor bracket on. But if you look up above here, you have these Phillips screws, and that's what we're going to take loose. All right, so we'll get the 3 on this side. Just takes a standard Phillips screwdriver, nothing special. And I'm just going to do this by hand because I don't want to look through my stuff for a Phillips head bit. I could have used a power screwdriver on this. Oops, dropped one. And all these screws are the same size, so we're just going to collect them and put them in a Ziploc bag so that we'll have them. Because we won't need these until we fix the monitor and bring it back and put it back on. Like I say, this job's not a hard job, it's just time consuming. Okay. And make sure I put all these screws so I know where they are. Okay, now we got all the screws out. So now what we have to do is try to break this seal. Now, the other one was stuck real tight. Hopefully this ain't going to be as bad, but if it is stuck and you can't get it to move, what you have to do is be real careful, because you can damage the monitor, you can break the glass. This frame is metal here, so you can put the screwdriver right underneath the tip here. If you go too far in and prise up, you might damage the LCD display, because it's not a very big gap, but it does have a metal bracket on this back side. So if you put it right on the edge, you can get by with it. You don't want to prise on the glass, because you know what happens to safety glass. If you stress it, it'll bust in a million pieces. So what you want to do is use the metal edge of this bracket as a pry point and just put it right on the edge, and you can gently put a little pressure up on it till you get it to come loose. But we might not have to do that. Hopefully we won't. What I'm going to try to do is grab this edge right here and see if I can break it loose. Sort of put my fingers under the edge and sort of roll up on it. Yeah, it's coming loose. And once you get your fingers under one edge, then you can kind of put your fingers under this other edge. Okay, great. All right, now this is where you got to be careful, because if you let it come down on that angle bracket, you can bust the screen. So stand it up on end, then you can grab it in the middle here and pick it up and take it right off and set it over here. Over here out the way. Okay. Well, that was pretty easy, a lot easier than the last one I'd done. Now what you have is the metal monitor bezel and the glass. And this glass is just sitting in here. The other one was loose. This one appears like it's in pretty tight. No, it's loose. See how it'll flop around a little bit? But that's okay, because it can't come out because of the brackets here. Okay. So now what we want to do is put it back in the game. And I want to mark it, because this was the top of the monitor, that was the bottom. It probably don't make a difference, but I'd rather make sure I put it back exactly like I got it, because there could be a slight difference in how these bolts line up in the bracket. So I'm just going to put right on here top. That way I know that this is the top side when I go to put the monitor back in. Okay, now let's set up and we'll put everything back together. Okay, well, let's put this back together. Now what I like to do is I'll take one of my mounting screws and I'll put it in the top right here and just shove it all the way in. That way, when you put it back up in here, the monitor bracket won't lean back against the back of the cabinet here, because you have to sort of stand it up straight in order to get it to go back up on this lip right here so that you can get the bolts back in. It's a lot harder to put back in with the monitor on it. So what I'm going to do, I had a heck of a time with the other one. This time I'm going to make it a little easier, but when we get to that, I'll show you that. But right now, let's go ahead and put this back in. Yeah, it's much easier to put this in like it is right now because you don't have the weight of the monitor, but this metal frame and the glass still weighs a little bit. So what I want to do is put it up on here. Stand it up. Okay. Now see, here's the problem. If you put it up on the ledge down here, it won't clear the speaker grill. So I'm gonna have to set it down. To clear the speaker grill, and then pick it back up. And push it all the way in. Once you got it on that ledge, it won't come forward. Okay. Now I'm going to push this back and see if I can get this bottom bolt to line up, which I believe it will. Okay, the bottom bolt is in this side. Now I need to get this one out. So what I like about that little light right there, it has a magnet on it. So just put the magnet against it and was able to pull it out. Now what I'm gonna have to do is come in from the back and I can move this bracket till it sits flat and put the screw back in the top here. Okay, now I can go back to this side and put these in. Of course, you have to line them up. Once you get it pretty lined up, it goes pretty quick. Neither one of them, I haven't had a problem with them lining up. And all we need to do now is just run these up. They don't have to be tight, just snug them up. Okay, That's done. Next, I'll put the dashboard back on. Now, this is the panel that those lights light up, right there. We're gonna leave the light panel off and just leave it under here. It'll be safe right there because this game is out of commission until we get the monitor back in. So I gotta get my correct driver. And start putting these screws back in. And I'll start with these back ones. And when I put these screws back in, I like to get them all started first. Helps with alignment because it will shift around a little bit and you might have to move it to get some of them to start. Games on Wheels is rolling away from me. Now these have nothing to do with the control panel. The control panel has got a metal lip that it goes against. So we can go ahead now that I got all these in and snug them down. And again, I'll start with the back. And I'm not tightening them down tight. The clutch is set on here, so it just basically finger tight. Okay. Now I get the screws up here for the control panel. And we'll go ahead and put the control panel back up. Dropping screws today, but that's all right. They don't go far. Go ahead and snug one of them up so I don't have to keep holding this. And that other screw here. Okay, now the only thing left to do is to put the back panel back on. And one more thing. This is something I hate to do to a game because I pride myself on trying to fix a game without having to put one out of service. But sometimes it can't be helped. So let me go ahead and put that back panel back on, and then we can load up. Okay, let's go ahead and put the back door back on. And I counted them, and they put 10 screws in this thing. Wow. All I gotta do is tighten these back up, and then we'll be on our way. Okay, well, my work is done here today. We got the other Batman back up and running. This one here, we have our out of order sign on, but it's all reassembled. And in case you're wondering how I transport the monitor, I have a little portable hand truck here, and I just got it bungee strapped on. So just got to be careful when I take it out of here and make sure nothing strikes that LCD screen on the front, because that's the whole monitor basically. If that gets damaged, the whole thing is, might as well forget it. So okay, now all we got to do is load it up in the car and take it back to the arcade. Well, here we are back home in my little arcade, and this is where I'm going to go ahead and repair this monitor. As you can see, I just got it up on a piece of particle board that's laying on my Star Wars cabinet, which I'm still in the process of working on. The weather turned cold on me, so I haven't had a chance to warm it up in here and paint the sides on my Star Wars cabinet. So, and then I had these two monitors break down in the arcade, so this takes priority. So anyway, first thing we have to do is the edge of the monitor here. It has a seal on it. Now this is a cloth type tape that covers the crack on the edge here where the bottom metal cover meets with the metal bracket that holds the LCD screen in. So I imagine they put this on there to be a dust shield to keep dust from being sucked in between the LCD screen and the diffusion for the backlighting. And also on top of this tape, they actually put a foam seal all the way around, sort of like a cushion. Now the other monitor had a thicker seal on it. This one here is almost completely flat, but it is there, and you can tell it is stuck on top of this cloth tape here. So what I'm going to be able to do is, like I did with the last one, is find where it starts on one of these corners, and we're going to have to peel this tape off all the way around. On the other monitor, I was lucky, it came off real easy, and I was able to keep it all in basically one piece and reuse it again. If for some reason this isn't the exact same, and I'm going to have to source this tape here and you know, try to recreate this. But I'm hoping if it's like the other one, we're not going to have a whole lot of problems. So I already looked it over, and this looks like the corner where it might be started here. So I'm going to try to peel it up here and see what happens. Now you can take your time with this, because I don't want to mess this up, because I do want to reuse it if I can. And there we go. That was the end of it. So far so good. Now all we have to do is just take and it broke. Okay. Evidently they're using a different type of tape on this than the last one. Yeah, this stuff is not very good at all. Okay. Alright, well, let me see if I can peel this top off first, because it has this seal on here, and maybe that'll help it get started, and then I can roll it down. But if worst comes to worst, I'll just have to find a source for this tape and seal and just put new on it. But hopefully I can get it off. Just a minor little setback. Okay, that seems to be the best way to do it, is to peel the top back first and then pull this side down. And it's possible that they may have put it on in pieces. The other one was in one continuous big piece. This one doesn't appear to be. This one appears like they put it on in small pieces. So this is going to be a little bit more difficult. But that's the way it goes. Nothing's ever easy. Alright, we're going to try this the same way. I'm going to pull back the top first. And this foam seal that they put on the top is sort of like a, if you're familiar with pinball machines, they have what they call a beer seal that goes under the bar, the lockdown bar. And it's a very similar looking material here. So it shouldn't be too hard to find something if I need to replace it. Okay, got that corner started. And just doing the same thing, rolling it over off the top edge. Okay, last corner. Let's see if we can get this. Sort of swing this over here to kind of keep it up out the floor, starting to get long. And it's great that this stuff is coming off as easy as it is. You know how sometimes certain types of adhesives can really be a pain. Alright, let's see if I can just put this over here out of the way until I get the top edge started to roll down. And actually this foam seal that they put on actually strengthens that tape up too. Makes it easier to pull a loose like this. Okay. Now I get this back over here. Okay, that broke. That's not going to be a problem. Hang this up out the way here. tape is still sticky, and we ought to be able to put it back just like it came off. I don't see any problem with it. Okay. Just hang these pieces up here so that they'll be out the way. Okay. Now, the reason we did all that is because we have to take this back cover off, and this is the edge of it right here. And so when we take the screws out of it, we have to flip it over, and this bottom whole cover will come off. Now they have these little seals right here, and it's just like a piece of aluminum tape, and I think it's all it is just to an indicator, like a warranty seal, to let people know whether anybody has been inside this or not. So we're about to void the warranty. So what I'm going to do is just see if I can peel this up. Well, let me try it from the bottom side. And this one doesn't want to peel. Okay, so I'll just take a razor blade and I'll cut it, because we know we're going in it anyway. Okay. The other one, these seals peeled off. Okay. So now I'm going to flip it over, and you want to make sure that the table you're using is flat and smooth, because it's only a small piece of metal frame right here that separates the tabletop from the monitor surface itself. So with that said, I think I'm going to transfer this over to my other table, which is a little lower to the floor, and because I'm going to have to take quite a few screws out of the back here and have access so I can get in there. We got cables to unplug and whatnot. So let me go ahead and set that up, and we'll continue with the disassembly. Okay, I've now put it face down on my little table here, and there's quite a bit of dust here. So I'm going to take a little automotive detailing brush that I like to use to brush off the dust on these games. And we're just going to wipe the dust off of here. These games get rather dusty inside, so from time to time you do have to clean them. They all have fans in them that pull the hot air out of the game for cooling, but it also pulls all the dust and dirt from the location into the game, and it gets everywhere. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, this whole back has to come off. This cover here, well, this cover here has to come off. This cover, we might not have to take it off. I did take it off when I did the last one, but I don't believe there was any screws underneath it that I need to take it loose. We will have to take this panel off here, 2 screws holding it on, and this right here, because we have some cables to unhook. But if this was off, you would see that you got a board here, which is the VGA and DVI input board, or I'd call it the video board, I guess. Then you got another large board here, which is the main power supply, and of course this is where your AC plugs in to power the monitor. And then you have, like I say, a smaller board down here that has two flat ribbon cables that connect it to the two boards that are attached to the LCD panel. And of course we have this one right here, which the board under here takes power from the main board, and I guess this is the controller for the LED lighting, the backlight lighting. So one of the plugs in here goes directly to the LEDs that we're going to be replacing. So first thing we need to do, get a Phillips screwdriver and take this cover off. And for now I'm just going to put the screws right here. It's something we got right many screws to take loose, so you want to try to keep them separated, even though a lot of them are interchangeable. I like to keep them together. So in this case here, there's 4 screws holding this on. When I take this off right here, even though it has these slots in here, the screws won't fall through the slots. So I'll put the 4 screws right in there, and that way I'll know where those screws are. Now here's the board that powers the LEDs. It has a plug here that goes in through a hole that goes over to this power supply into here. This is the one right here that goes directly to the board that the LEDs hook up to. Last time I took this board off, but I don't believe I need to take it off as long as I can get the plugs unplugged, because we're going to have to put the wires through the holes. So this one here unplugs, and this connector, it'll be a little hard getting it through that grommet there. So I'm going to take this grommet loose. Now I can stretch it over the plug. I'll put the grommet in my pan there. And now I can just push this wire through the hole into the back of the monitor. Okay. Now we have to unplug this one and do the same thing. Now this one has a plastic grommet here, and it's a little bit bigger, so we ought to be able to just push that in. Now the reason we're having to do that is because, for one, this wire here, we're going to take the back off. So the wires have to be inside this back. Now this harness here, it stays attached to this board here and comes off with the back. But they have a bracket under here that these screws screw into, and that wire is fed underneath that bracket. So we're going to have to pick this up, reach in and pull that wire from under that bracket before we can lift this whole piece off. Okay. Now what we have to do is take all these screws out. It's like one up here. Got one here, one here, one here, one here. 4 screws down here. And I believe that's all. But we'll find out. But anyway, for this, I like to use these little containers here. Got a top for them, and I put a label on there, the back screws. So I'll just put all these screws in there. The other monitor, I didn't have any trouble. All these screw holes line up pretty good. So it's no problem taking it apart and putting it back together. It's just a lot of screws and more time consuming than anything. Now this screw here and the 3 down here are different type screws. The others I've taken out have been flathead. These actually are not flathead, they're a round head screw, and they have a flat washer and a lock washer. And there's 3 more down here. Actually 4 more down here. But you can't get those mixed up, so like I say, they all holding the back on. Now I think that's all, if memory serves me, and we won't have to take this loose. I don't remember any being under this. I could be wrong, but we'll find out. But what I do have to do is take this cover off right here, because it has access to a plug. The cable goes from the video input board to this little board right here, which hooks to the ribbon cables for the LCD screen. I don't know what that board's called, so it doesn't really matter. And we have another one of these seals right here, but this one here looks like it may have been pulled off one time before, but okay. I pulled that little seal down. All right, first thing I'm gonna do is unplug this. And let me see if I can get you a better shot at that. Okay, well, here's that access panel I took off, and there is a cable here, and it plugs into this little board that's under this piece right here, and it has 2 little ears on either side. What you have to do is reach in and squeeze those 2 little ears together, because it's got a little latch on the back side that will release it from the PC board. So we can get in here and push those in and pull this cable loose. And there's the cable right there. But that's going to come out with the whole back, because this attaches to the board that's mounted into the back plate here. Okay, well, it appears I'm wrong. There must be some more screws underneath this cover here, because it will not come up. So I'm gonna have to take this off anyway. So, okay, no problem. Just means a lot more screws to take out. I was hoping to avoid taking this off, but clearly I'm missing something here. There must be some screws that go all the way through or under the bottom here. So what's a few more screws, right? Now, you need to look this over, because there are some screws you don't need to take out. I'll point those out after I get the ones out here that we need to take loose. And these are the flathead Phillips screws that are the exact same screws that went in everything else. That's why I'm putting them all in the same little cup for the back. Okay, we're close. Now, right here is where the AC power goes in. There's 2 screws right here. We can leave those in because this is a bracket that the AC power plug is on. We're not going to remove that. We do have to remove these 2 screws up here because these screws go in the housing into the L bracket that holds the AC adapter on. So we need to take these 2 out. So when we take this cover off, the AC adapter will stay there. Same thing over here. There's another access port that's not used, but we're going to leave that bracket on the back panel, but the top 2 screws have to come out just like this because it's an L bracket. So we'll take these 2 out. And evidently this is just for extra ports for different monitor input that's not used in this application. You'll find that a lot of monitors like this are made up of parts from television sets. The actual LEDs that backlight this are actually the same LEDs that go in an LG 42-inch television set. Okay, now that should be all the screws holding this on, but we got one more very important thing to do here. Let me get a close-up on that. Okay, right here is our video input. You have a VGA connector and a DVI connector. These are just like connectors you'll find on a computer, back of a computer monitor, or on the back of a video card for a computer monitor. It has these little like nuts here with studs that have threads in them so that the cable plugs in, and then you use the little thumb screws to tighten it up, which keeps the plug from falling out. So we have to take these little nuts loose because they go through the housing here. So just take a little nut driver and that's what one of them looks like. I'm sure anybody that's worked with computers knows what they are. Because if you go tugging on this thing, these are screwed tight to this panel, but the board that these are mounted to are on the back of the monitor here, so you can actually rip those connections out if you go prying on it and not know that they come apart, and that's not good. Okay, let's see, hopefully that's all of it. Now we have to slide it back this way to clear our connections here, and we can lift it up off of here. And this is the flat cable, runs to the menu system for adjusting the monitor. That's what this is. It's got a little rubber garment there, so we can leave all that on. So now we should be good, and we ought to be able to pull this off. So let me take a look at it and let's see. Okay, now with all the screws out, we're ready to take this back off. I lowered the camera down, so I'm hoping you can see where this power cable that comes from this power board here goes in through this hole, and of course comes out the hole on the other side of this board. Well, we've stuffed the wire down inside here, but there's a bracket that wire goes underneath the panel. So what we have to do is when we pull this panel up, there we go, we have to reach in here, and don't know if you can still quite see it, but here's the wire, and we have to feed it. And let me see if I can get a better shot of that for you. Okay, lift this up. And right here is this cable, and it goes underneath this bracket right here. So just have to stuff the wire underneath this bracket and pull it loose. Now we can just pick this whole piece up and take it off. Okay, now we just pick the back cover up with all the boards intact and move it over here out the way. Okay, next thing we have to do is take this cover off. There's two screws holding this cover on. These screws also hold this PC board in place. So we'll take the screws off. Okay, they're smaller screws, but they're still Phillips head screws. I'll just leave the screws right in there and put this over on the side. Okay, now this is the board where that plug plugged in that we unplugged previously. It has the two ribbon cables that connect to it to go down to the LCD panel. All right, what we'll have to do is take these two ribbon cables loose. So let me zoom in on them. And I'm going to take them loose at the board rather than take them loose down here. You could take them loose either place, but it's easier to put these back in than to put it in down here, I believe. So anyway, the way you do these connectors, if you're not familiar with these flat ribbon cables, this little black bar right here, that's the little latch that you flip down that holds the cable in the, I guess you could call it a socket, a ribbon socket. I don't know exactly what they call it, but what you do is you just take your fingernail, put underneath it here, and flip it up, and the cable just comes right out. So we do the same thing to this one. And now we can take this board off. And now we've disconnected the LCD monitor. Okay, well, we're getting closer. Now what we need to do is pick this up and flip it over. And we're going to take the frame loose from the front side. So just stand it up. It's a whole lot lighter than it was, but still got to be careful with it. And it will twist easy, so you want to keep it twisting to a minimum. Because this LCD screen, I imagine it's glass, I'm not sure, but it's very thin and it's flexible, and if you flex it too much, it will break. Okay, so what we need to do now is take our small Phillips screwdriver. I'm not sure what size this is, it might be a 0. But anyway, small Phillips screwdriver, and you have these screws right in here. You got 3 on the end, and let's see, you got 1, 2, 3 on this side. You either got 3 or 4 on the top side. This is the bottom of the monitor where the ribbon cable is right under here. So this bracket is a little bit different than the other 3 because this covers where the monitor ribbon cables are. So we're going to start with that. And again, I have my little cup I'm going to put my screws in. All these screws are the same. And I guess some are saying, why not use my power screwdriver? Well, I don't know. I like to use a manual. Once in a while I'll use the power screwdriver for big stuff. But on this little stuff, and especially when you're working on something that's kind of delicate, I like to do everything by hand. Just a personal preference, I guess. Okay, got those three out. So now what you can do is pull this up, rock it up a little bit, and lift it right off. I'm going to set it over to the side. Now before I take the other 4 brackets loose, I'm going to go ahead and take these little panel, where the panel connects to the ribbon cables. I'm going to take them out of here, and we're going to flip them up and use some painter's tape and tape them to the LCD screen. That will just keep them in place because they're very fragile, and if you damage these, you'd have messed up the LCD screen. So let's go ahead and do that next. I'll get a little bit different angle on it for you. Okay, there are 2 of these boards here, one on the left side and one on the right side. You can use a microfiber cloth to just wipe the dust off of the front of the screen. You don't want to scratch it, so just want to wipe it off so that the tape will stick better. And we're going to use regular painter's tape, and we're going to tear off a piece. Doesn't have to be very big. And when I'm putting something temporary on here with the tape, what I like to do is take the end of the tape and just fold over about 1/4 inch or so of the end. And that creates a little pull tab, so when you go to take it off, you don't have to be digging on whatever you've stuck it to. Okay, now this board right here has 3 ribbon cables that connect it to the LCD panel, 3 on this side and 3 on the other. And it's got this long PC board, and it has the ribbon cable that we took loose from the other board earlier on it. It's just sitting down in this little bracket, and what you do is you just have to pick it up and pull it out, and then you very gently flip it over. You don't want to put a whole lot of pressure on it because you don't want the to put any stress on that, on these ribbon cables here. So you want to just kind of get it kind of loose and just stick it on there, and that's just to keep it up out of the way so that when we pick the LCD panel up off of there, you won't catch it on anything and rip it off. So I'm going to do the one on this other side the same way, and then we'll set up and finish taking those other 3 metal brackets off. Okay, well, I'm going to take my small Phillips screwdriver again, and I'm going to start next with the side brackets. And 3 screws in here. Okay. Now the same deal here. Just sort of pick them up a little bit. They have little catches here. There's 2 on this one here, and also another 2 down here that they sort of snap in place. So, and it's got a little tab on this that slides underneath this one, so you have to kind of pull it this way to get it out. All right, let's see. Now I'm going to go around here and get the other side. Are we having fun yet? And there's 3 on this side also. And again, sort of rotate it up from the bottom, pick it up a little bit, and slide it that way to get this little tab out of it. Okay. A little pressed for room in here, but it's enough to get the job done. Okay. Now, got 1, 2, 4 in the top side here. So let's get these 4 out. And of course, when I put it back together, I put it together in the same order I took it out. I'll put the top on first, then I'll put the sides, then the bottom. Pretty easy to remember. Pretty self-explanatory. The reason for that is because these side pieces have the tabs that go in here. I imagine you could put the ends on first and then just put this down over top of it. I mean, there are always different ways of doing something. This is just how I do it. Okay. Same thing, rotate the bottom up, and it'll come right off. Okay. Believe it or not, we are ready to take the LCD screen out. Okay, let me reposition it for that and set up for it, and I'll explain how we do that. Okay, well, we're ready to transfer the LCD panel, and we're going to pick it up off of here. Now, it has a plastic frame that sits on the metal light box. And we're just going to pick it up out of this frame. It's like I say, just sitting there. And I'm going to put it up on this flat surface here. Now, it's critical to try to keep any contamination from the back side of this glass because the light shines through the glass, and that's how you see the image on the screen. So if you have any crud on the back side of this when you put it back together, you're going to possibly see that crud in the picture. We don't want that. So we need to have a surface to set it down on that's lint-free, dust-free, perfectly clean, and something smooth that's not going to scratch the surface underneath. So best thing I came up with, went to the art store and got a package of white poster paper. It's clean, it's smooth, and just 2 sheets. I laid it down up here, and it's the perfect surface to lay this glass down on. Now, how do you pick this up out of here? Well, some people wear gloves and pick the edge up real easy, and I've seen them put paper under there so that you don't get fingerprints on it, because fingerprints are just as bad as dust. So the best thing to do is get you some suction cups. I got these off of eBay, but I actually bought them on eBay from the company that sells everything you need to do this job. They sell the LED strips, replacement LEDs. They sell the LED test equipment, which I'll demonstrate here shortly. They also sell pretty much any part, the boards that go to this, whatever. So anyway, we're just going to put these in a panel and evenly spaced, and go ahead and suck them up. Now we can pick it up. First, I like to pick it up and make sure the suction cup's not going to come loose, and very quickly put it up here and set it down on the poster board. And then I'll take the suction cups off and put them out of the way, because next what we're going to have to do is take up this sheet that's on here, this white sheet, which is a light diffuser. It's translucent. Light can shine through it, and when the light hits it, it dissipates, and it's a light panel. And a lot of television sets have several different layers. This particular monitor, at least the last one I took apart, only had two. It had a thin sheet on the top and then a thick plastic piece under the bottom. So first what we're going to have to do is take this plastic that the LCD screen sits into, the LCD cradle, whatever you want to call it, plastic bezel. It has little clips, and we're going to have to unclip it all the way around and take this off. So let's go ahead and do that next. Okay, well, all it is little clips right here that you just put your fingernail under and you pull up on it, and they'll start popping loose. Takes a few tries sometimes to get it started. Usually once you get it started, it's fairly easy. Just be careful, because this metal all has sharp edges on it. If you run your finger across it the wrong way, you can get a nasty cut. And sometimes it wants to be stubborn. There we go. Okay. Now I think we got it. Now we just take this plastic piece off and lay it up here. Out the way. Okay, now we have this thin plastic on top of the thick plastic. The thin plastic has little pieces here that, little go over little tabs. So we have to take these little tabs loose. They should just come right off, but sometimes they'll stick. All right, and we just lay this right up here. Now we have this thick piece of plastic. Has no tabs. We just take that off and lay that up here. Okay. Now, here are the LEDs. Each one of the LEDs here has a little lens on them. It also has this, I guess that's a plastic, or it might be some type of paper. Looks like maybe plastic that goes down over top of the strips. One thing I forgot to do is it has these little, look like toothpicks. It's got 4 of them. Some monitors have more, but this has only got 4 of them. And they're sort of like PC board standoffs. I'm going to have to turn this over in order to get them out. And you can see them where they stick through the back. It's just a little nub with 2 little like barbs on them. And you have to take a pair of pliers, needle nose pliers or whatever, push those 2 little tabs, and then they'll fall right in the hole. So, let's see if we can do that. I actually could have done this before I took the LCD panel off. It wouldn't have hurt nothing. They would have just laid right inside. And the last one is always the stubborn one. Okay. Well, I thought I'd put these in. Okay. They're all in. Now we just need to turn it back over. And we'll put these aside. Okay, now we can pick this sheet up because those little tabs were holding this in. And now, here it is. Here are the LED strips. They're 5 rows. Each row is made up of 2 strips. They have a plug that plugs into the PC board here, where the power comes in. And in the middle they have a plug where the strips connect together. So you have a right side and a left side. All these, they labeled R1, R2, R1, R2, R1. This one here is L1, L2, L1, L2, L1. I don't know the significance in that other than how they are electrically wired. I don't know. I would think they're wired in parallel, but then they could be wired in series. I haven't a clue. Or it may be a combination of both. I know there are 4 wires going to the strip that powers it. 2 white wires and 2 black wires. But there are 5 rows. So somehow it's got to be some type of a split somewhere. Maybe two wires does 2.5 rows and the other two do 2.5 rows. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. All I know is now that we got it down here, we can get out our tester and see if any of these strips are good or if they're all bad. The monitor went dark, but it may have, one of them may have developed a short or something, and the power supply might have shut down. I'm hoping that's all it is, and caused all of them to go dark. Like I say, for about a month, this ran with what I believe this strip right here to be completely dead, and one or two up here in this area were dead because this screen was dark in those areas. So anyway, let's go ahead and get the equipment out and test and see what we got. Okay, now we're ready to test the LEDs to see which ones are bad and which ones are good. This is the tester. Got it off of eBay, but you can also get it at shopjimmy.com, which you also can buy the LED strips and a lot of other equipment there. It runs on AC. It's called a LED TV backlight tester. It has a positive and a negative probe. And the LED strips here, they plug in with these little plugs right here. And they're marked, they have little test points on them. They have a plus test point and a minus test point. You just put the probes from the tester on these test points, and it'll, if these are good, they'll light up. If any of them is bad, they won't light up. So, with that said, let's find out if any of these are good. I printed out a picture from the last one I did, and I have the rows marked off, so when I get a LED that's bad, I'll just mark it on this piece of paper, and then afterwards I can figure out what strips I need and go from there. So let's go ahead and get our tester here, and I'll just set it up here out the way for right now. Let's test the first strip right here, which consists of R1 and L1. And put the positive probe on the positive and the negative on the negative. And looks like we have one bad LED. This one right here is not lighting. So that one is on L1 next to the last. So on my piece of paper, I'll put a X on it. That's bad. So we're going to have to replace this L1 strip right here. All right, let's go up to the next one and put a positive on the positive, negative on the negative. Same thing. We have one out on L2. This one right here is not lighting. So this side of the strip is good. This side's going to have to be replaced. So I'm going to go ahead and put an X on that one. All right. Third one up from the bottom. Positive and negative. Interesting. All those are working. So that's good. All right, next one. Positive and negative. Okay, this time we have one out right here, one on the end, and this one up here. So that's L2 and R2. So that one's bad. And which one did I say was bad down there? next to the last. Okay. Well, I would have thought a lot more would have been out than that. Okay, one more strip to test. Okay. R1 is good, but I got 2 out on L1, this one and that one. Okay, so it's the 2nd and the 4th. Okay, so now I got to figure out if I have the parts in stock, because I was sent one full kit for the other one and I only used half of them. So these are the ones that I have left over. But do I have the correct ones? Okay, let me figure that out and then I'll come back. Okay, well, I've got this all figured out now. I only had 5 left over from the last install. But these have certain spots they go in, like R1, L1, R2, L2. Well, it turns out the 5 that I need, I only have 3 of them in stock. 3 of them here. I have 2 L1s left over from the first, which I can use, and I have an R2, which I can use. But I used both of the L2s in the last monitor, so I'm 2 L2 shorts, or left 2. So I'm going to have to get the boss man to send me 2 LED strips. So until we get those, I'm going to put this on hold, but it'll be instantaneous for you because through the magic of video, I'll just continue on. Well, I'm back, and for you, it's just been a couple seconds, but for me, well, it's been actually just a little over a month. What happened was we went to order the new LED strips from shopjimmy.com and they were out of stock. So that's the bad news. The good news is they came back in stock a lot quicker than they usually do. So here it is. I have a new complete set of LED strips. So we decided that it's best, even though only 1 or 2 LEDs are out in certain strips, it's best to go ahead and replace them all. So we're just going to replace all of them, and that way we won't have to worry about the remaining ones. That if we left the originals in there, they might fail soon anyway. So okay, so here they are, complete set. And we do have to, they are numbered and lettered, so we do have to make sure that we get them in the right spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open these up, and then I'm going to start down here at the bottom and just get out the 2 that I need to replace this, which is an R1 and an L1, and we'll remove the old strip and then install the new one, and then we'll move to the next one and the next one until we get them all done. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, well, I've got the first 2 strips out here. This is L1, this is a new L1, this is the R1, that's the new R1. So we'll take these out. Now, easiest way to take these out, they're just stuck on with double-sided tape. When you go to put these on, you just peel the tape off and they'll stick right down. So on shopjimmy.com, they have a lot of videos, and they use a painter's tool, a 5-in-1 painter's tool. So it seems to work pretty good, because you can put this little point wedge edge right here, and you get it started under the edge, and then once you get it started, you just push it and sort of twist it, and it'll pop right up. And you can unplug it and then get the next one started. And just work your way down. And then you got to unplug it from the PC board. And now take the backing off of this double sticky tape. Plug it in. Line it up, and they got little tabs. Some little tabs go in the hole right here, and then they got some on the edges just so that you can keep them straight. And all you got to do is just push them down. Take the next strip, peel the backing off, plug it in, okay, and then you want to make sure it's lined up. And just push it down, and it'll seal itself, and that's all it is to it. So let's do the next one. The next one is a L2 and a R2. So we just go back to our new pack here, and we get out an L2 and an R2. Double check and make sure that's a R2 and that's an L2. Okay, and we just repeat. Get started under the edge. And just keep sliding it, rotating it up till it pops. Okay. So that's an R2 and an L2. Peel off the back. Plug it in the board, line it up, and press it down. Nothing hard about it at all. Just like anything, it's a little time consuming, but not too bad. And this stuff holds pretty good, so you don't have to worry about it coming loose. But if you were to repair these, like some people, you can get a repair kit to where you pull the lens off, heat up the surface mount LED and replace it, and then glue the lens back on. Some people just stick it back down with the tape because it's still kind of sticky. But if it doesn't want to stick all the way, I've seen them use, once they get them all in, they'll just put a couple pieces of tape across here, because when you put the back piece in, it's going to hide everything because there's little holes in it and nothing but the lens shows through. So, but they also sell where you can buy the double-sided tape if you want to replace the tape and put new tape on them. Okay, so we've done these two. Now we need an L1 and an R1. So let's get our next ones out here. Okay, here's an R1 and an L1. So let's do it again. Get it started on the edge. And it sticks pretty good sometimes, but it'll come right off. Okay. So that was an R1. We'll take our new R1, peel the back off. Plug it in. Line it up again. All right. L1. Plug it in, line it up. And push it down. Okay, that's 3 rows, 2 more to go. All right. Now we're going to need an R2 and an L2. Okay. All right, R2. All right. L2. And again, it's got a little notch here that goes in, two little raised notches here that goes in between notch here and a notch here, and the two raised. So pretty well, it's easy to get it back in a correct position. Okay, that leaves one more strip to go. And luckily we've got two more, so that's going to be an R1 up there and an L1 over here. Just put these down here out the way for now. A little hard getting it started sometimes. Alright, this one wants to be a pain. Do it backwards. Where there's a will, there's a way. There we go. Okay, so that gets an R1, and our last R1. Line it up. Okay, now our last one is a L1, so we'll take our last new L1. Line it up, push it down, and that's it. We've now finished installing the new LED strips. So now we can get our tester back out just for the heck of it and go ahead and test them. Okay, now let's go ahead and test the strips. Now we can test them individually like we did before, but I think what I'm going to try right now is this is the power plug where it gets power from the board. I guess you call it LED driver board. It has 4 wires, two pairs. a white and black and another white and black. Now I found out that two of the wires, or one of the pairs, the black and the white is positive and the black is negative. When you put power on two of them, the two outer rows light up. When you put power to the other pair, the three in the center light up. So it's a little uneven. Like I say, one side only lights the top and bottom, and the other pair light the three in the middle. So let's see what we get. I don't remember which is which here, so I'll just go ahead and we'll find out. Okay, that's the three in the middle, and all of them are lit. So let's go ahead and move it to the other pair. Okay, we're looking good. The top row and the bottom row are lighting like they should. So the new LEDs are successful. Now all we can hope is that we don't have a problem with the LED driver board. But we won't know that until we put the monitor back together. Okay, well, it's time to start putting this thing back together. First thing we're going to do, and we're going to put it back in the reverse order we took it apart, we have to put the back reflector on. So let's go ahead and get the back reflector. And it simply sets down on top of the LED panel. And it has these little notches here. And it has little tabs, and you just got to make sure you get all these tabs back in place. Okay, now I need to get my little couple of screws here because that's where I put the little standoffs. Now, like I say, these are the little standoffs. They look like little toothpicks, but they have the little tabs on them, just like a PC board standoff. And this does two things. One, it holds this back reflector in position so that when it's standing up, or if you flip it over, it won't pull up off of the LEDs. And number two, the points give the light panels, the diffusers, something to rest on so that they don't sag in. In other words, it helps keep the panels stiff and level. So all we need to do, since we got everything lined up like it should be, is go ahead and just pop these back in. They just pop right in. They have little tabs that once you put them through the hole, like little barbs, they'll hold themselves out. And this one don't seem to be wanting to do it. Might have to look at it. Maybe I compressed it too much. Let's see. That one's holding. Yeah, I'm gonna have to bend these back out some. Just take a little flat blade screwdriver. This must have been that one that was kind of difficult. And I'll just real easy bend the barbs out a little bit. Okay. There we go. That's all it was. Okay, now we got those in. Next, we get the thick plastic diffuser. And we set that in place. And that just sits right in on the edge of these tabs. So the tabs kind of help line it up. Then we put the thin diffuser back on. And actually, I didn't know this. I thought this was one layer, but this is three layers. How about that? So, I have to line these back up so that they all fit like they're supposed to. I thought this was just one sheet, but it's not. I could have swore the other monitor I did, it was just one sheet. But, oh well. As long as we get them all lined up. Okay, they all looking good. This one is a little off. Okay, that's on. Okay, they're all back on. Okay, now we got to put the plastic cradle back on for the LCD panel. And this only goes on one way, but the bottom edge is wider. So, and this just goes down on here, and it has little clips that once you get it lined up, it should snap in place. And you can hear them snap in place. And when they're all the way down, you'll be able to tell because it'll be flat against the plastic diffuser. And plus, if you look on the side, you'll see your screw holes are lining up. Okay, now we're ready to put the LCD panel back on. So I'm going to move this around a little bit and set up because I'm going to have to get up here with the suction cups to put it back down in place. So let me set that up and we'll come right back. Okay, now we got our suction cups back again, and we're going to put the suction cups on the LCD panel. Okay, got to make sure that they stick. It's a little cold out here, so got one of them to stick. Okay, what's going on here? Is it too cold for them? It's a little cold out here. Okay, I think I got them on now, but it was stuck. It was so flat, it was stuck to the poster board. Of course, it's been sitting out here for a month. So, all right, now all we got to do is set it in the plastic frame or cradle. And just make sure you got it flat down in there. And then we can take the suction cups back off. Okay, panel is back on. Now we got to put the metal frames back on. Okay, well, I know that when I was taking this apart, I said that I took the bottom off first, then I took the two side brackets off, and then I took the top bracket. And because, well, these brackets right here have a little tab that goes underneath the bottom and a little tab that goes underneath the top bracket. So looking at it again, because of that, I think it would be best to put the two side brackets on first. That way you don't have to worry about sliding that little tab underneath the bracket on the ends. So that's what I'm going to do. Now both of these side brackets, if you don't lay them out to where you know what side they come off of, they look identical, and I think they're pretty much identical and interchangeable. They do have the wide side has side written on it, and that's where the screw holes are, so the screws go in here, so we know it goes this way. And like I say, I don't think it makes a difference, but because this has got this little tamper-proof seal on it that I cut, I was able to go look at the back panel and see the other half of this seal, and that way I could determine that this came originally off of this side. So that's where I'm going to put it back on. Okay, what you have to do is it's got a little tab right here and another little tab right here that comes up through here and fits in this little tab right here. So that's why when you take it off, you rock it up and pull up on it. And then it has a little tab here and a little tab here where, let's see, it has a little clip right here where it clips on the edge of this, and it clips on the edge of this once you push it down. Then the screws hold it in place. So you got to be real careful because this metal will bend if you try to force it. And there's no reason to force it because it goes on nice and easy, usually. So we just want to make sure you got it lined up, rock it up on the edge, and then lower it down, and it should fall right into position. And these little clips right here should fall into place, and your screw holes should line up, and they should be flat against there. And when they are, then you can take your screws and your screwdriver. And what did I do with my screwdriver? Lost it underneath the monitor here. There it is. And I'm going to start with the center screw. No particular reason why. Push down on it. And I'm not going to really tighten it. I'm just going to snug it. I could go ahead and tighten it now because I think it's going to be locked into place and you're not going to be able to adjust it anyway. I don't think you'll need to adjust it because all the latches are latched in. But that's the way I like to do things. I like to just put them in, snug them up, make sure everything lines up, then come back and tighten everything down. So we'll put these 3 screws in. Okay. Now, go ahead and put the other side on. And normally I wouldn't have to turn the table around like this. It's just I want to be able to get the view in the camera so you can see what I'm doing. It doesn't do any good to just show me putting parts on if you can't, you know, see a little bit how they go on. Now this is the same way, exact same as the other side. You got your little clip here and your little clips here. So basically you just want to line up the screw holes, rock it up like this, push it against it, and it should just fall right into place. And when you got it in that little notch, you can push it side to side a little bit, and you know you got it. And same thing on this side. I'll start with the center screw. Now these screws are made to make it easy to go in because the threads don't go all the way down to the end. You got about half of it is nothing but just like a pin, and then halfway down the threads start. That's so that it's easy for them to get the screw lined up in the hole. I guess it probably has more to do with being assembled quickly on an assembly line than anything else, because I don't see no reason what would make them hard to go in like I'm doing them right now. But maybe that makes it easy for them to get started. I don't know. Like I say, just put a little pressure down on them, make sure it's, because this is what holds the LCD panel in. And one more down here. Okay, they're snugged. Okay, next I'm going to put the top on, because the bottom, once we put the bottom on, before we put the bottom on, we have to take this tape loose and put those ribbon cable boards back in. Okay, got to get the brackets, and these are the top and bottom brackets, and you can't get these mixed up because the bottom bracket is much wider, because that's what goes on the covers those ribbon boards. So this is the one for the top, and of course the screw holes go on the side just like the side panels. And it too has the same type of deal, the little notch here that fits on this little tab, and then it has the little notch down here. So it's two on the top and two on the bottom, just like the side pieces. So you want to rock it up, set it on here, and you can pretty well line it up with the screw holes. And then just let it roll down, and it clicked in place. Well, this side did, this side didn't. Okay. You have to make sure that little tab is lined up in that little notch. And if you try to force it with it not lined up, then it'll bend this little piece of metal right here. And then you have to take it off and take some real skinny pliers and straighten it up. Ask me how I know that. Okay. Okay, and we're back on track. Yes, I dropped my little cup with screws. That's okay, I found them all. Alright, same thing. Just push down on them and snug them up. I'll start with the two in the middle. Okay. Now let's turn it around and do the other side here. Now, it would be easier just to turn the monitor on top of the table, but I'll just turn the whole table. Okay. Alright, now we have the one that goes on here. But first, we have to put our boards back in. And like I say, it's got 3 ribbon cables here. So if you remember, we put the painter's tape on them and I have my little tab I made so we can easily pull the tape right off. Let these flop back down, and we'll move it over to the edge of the table so I can tuck the ribbon cable in. Now, it has little tabs right here and here that the board sits down in. So what you have to do is pick the board up, and then it just sits right down in there, and that's all that holds it in. Is those 2 little tabs, and the pressure from the ribbon cables sort of hold them down in place. So we do the same thing over here. Pull this tape off. Let these swing back down. Pick them up and set them right down in place. And just let these ribbon cables hang back under there. Now we can go ahead and put our last bracket on. And this is basically the same thing. You have one here, one here, one here that has to clip over these little tabs. And then of course you got 3 on the bottom right here that clip on these little tabs down here. So, same thing. You line up the little tabs and the screw holes. You sort of raise it up in the air, push it in, and let it fall right down. And if you got these little notches lined up, they should fit right in place. There we go. And like I say, don't force them or you'll bend those little tabs. And then you'll have to take it off and straighten them. Okay. Now we can put the rest of our screws in here. This only gets 3 screws. So I'll put the one in the middle first. Same deal. I'll just put pressure down on it. And after we put these 3 in, we can go ahead and tighten the rest of them down. And of course, there's no need to try to tighten them too tight. These are small Phillips head screws. You're only going to get them but so tight. They do have factory Loctite on them, so when they get all the way down into the threads, the Loctite should help them a little bit, but because they've been removed, the Loctite is not going to be as tight as they once were. So we'll go ahead and we can tighten these down now. And of course these screws are going to be hidden anyway because the back panel slides up on the back and slides all the way up to the edge right here. So the back panel is going to cover all this up. So let's go ahead and tighten up the rest of these. And of course, most of you ought to know this, but anytime you're working on anything like this, you got to make sure you have the correct tool, or screwdriver in this case, the correct bit to fit the screw. Because if you don't, then it's not going to work like it's supposed to, and you can round off the screw head and cause problems. Too big, it's not going to fit. Too small, believe it or not, this isn't the smallest Phillips screw head there is. So if you try to use one that's too small, it's worse than one that's too big, because one that's too big is not going to fit. One that's too small will fit in there and you can round it off. So just a little tip. As old Scotty would say in Star Trek, the right tool for the right job. I forget what movie he said that in. I believe he said it in one of the movies. Might have been the motion picture. I don't know. I'll have to brush up on my Star Trek trivia. But feel free to let me know in the comments if you know the answer to that. Okay. And let's see, did I do this other end? I don't know. Never hurts to recheck it. Okay. That's all done. Now we get to flip the monitor back over on its face and start putting the back on and connecting all the wires and plugs and all that good stuff. So let me get set up for that and we'll get right to it. Okay, next thing we need to do is put this little board on that the ribbon cables connect to. And this just has 2 little raised humps here that it fits in, and it has 2 holes here for the screws that once we put this cover on, the screws in the cover actually go through the board and hold the board onto the back of the light panel here. So let me zoom in on that, and because we're going to have to hook this panel up here. All right. Now let's see if I can do this. I ought to be able to hold the board down rather than put the screws in it. What we need to do is put these ribbon cables in and make sure they're all the way in. If you get them in the slot, you can put a little pressure on them and they'll push themselves in. And then pull the little clip down here and clip them right in. All right, let's see if I can get this one started. You can kind of tell when they butt up to the end right there. And that's all it is to it. All right, I need my little screwdriver. Now, I'm going to put this back on. Let me take the screw out, that way I can line the holes up. All right. Now get the screws in. And I believe, I looked this up, they call this, I believe they call it the T-con board. Well, don't really know what that means, but I do know what it does. It connects the video input board. The output of that goes into a plug right here, and this board distributes the scan line signals, or whatever you want to call them, to these two ribbon cables, which are distributed on these long boards with the 3 ribbon cables that hook up to the matrix of the LCD panel. So that's, I guess you could call it an interface between the video card or the video board and the actual screen itself. I can't get more technical than that because I don't get that technical with it. So anyway, but that's basically what it does. Okay, that's back on. Next thing we need to do is put the whole back cover on, which has all those boards on it. And if you remember from taking this apart, this is the bracket. When we put that on, we have to fish that one wire harness underneath here and bring it out this other side here. Well, you can't see it in that, but let me bring this back out. There we go. When we put it back on, this bracket right here, you have to fish that wire harness back under here and come out this side, and it goes up through the hole in the back cover that plugs into the light board, the light driver board. So okay, so let me set up for this and we'll get to putting this back on. Okay, well, let's go ahead and set this back cover back on. And I'll just set it down on here like this. Okay, now I got it down on the front side, and what I have to do now is pick it up and fish these wires back in here. So let me see if I can get a close-up shot of that. Okay, well, here we are. I got 2 wiring harnesses to bring up. I got one that goes directly to the LED lights. It comes up through this hole right here, and then there's a hole right here on this side of the board, and that's the one we have to fish underneath that bracket. So let's see, I can pick this up here and get this underneath this bracket. And get this one up through this hole. Okay, now I have to get this one up through the hole. Okay, they're both up through the hole. So now let's see if I can set this down and get it to fit. And that's looking good. The holes always seem to line up pretty good on this, so once you drop it down flat, everything usually lines up pretty good. So, with that said, let's go ahead and plug these two cables up and start putting the screws back in. Okay, let me zoom in on this board a little bit here. And first, this is the wires that power the LEDs. They come up through this hole, and we have to put the rubber grommet back on. So that's the standard rubber grommet. So we just need to push the plug back through it. Some of them are split, but this one's not split, but it goes on without any problem. Now, try to get this in. Get it started on that back side first. And there we go, it's on. Okay, now we plug this in. And now we can plug this one in here. Okay, and now we can push those wires back down in there. And we can push these back in. Okay, now that's done. Okay, well, I've got this all turned around so you can see this connection right here. The plug here coming from the video board plugs into the back of the T-Con card or T-Con board. So zoom in on that. So that's the plug right down here. And of course, this plug here has two little catches and two little ears where you push in on them, and that causes these little catches to release. So when we go to put it back in, actually it ought to just push right back in. The problem is going to be getting it lined up here. Okay, that wasn't too much of a problem. Okay, that's in. Okay, now that that's done, now we can go back. Let me rearrange this thing, and we can start putting the screws in the back cover. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is put the back cover back on the LCD driver board. Just 4 screws holds it on. Just line them up here. And these take a regular Phillips screwdriver. And these screws don't go into the back housing. They just hold this cover on, so we can go ahead and tighten these down. Now, got them all started. Okay, that's back on. Now, let me get my bucket of screws here. And we'll start putting a few in before we put the back cover over these boards. Now, most of these screws are the same. There's only a few that are different. And the ones that are different are these 4 down here. These have the round-headed Phillips screws with the lock washer and flat washer. So I'm going to go ahead and just start them. And fish a couple more out here. And these I'm just going to basically just start them and run them down. And after we get everything back together, then I'll come back and I'll tighten up all these screws. Should be one more. And that goes up here on the top. Right in the middle of the top. Okay. So that's basically the major screws that holds this on, but there are others that go through the brackets here. So anyway, next we'll put this little plate on. This plate goes on here, and it just covers where this plug connects here. And this has to go on before we can put this next cover back down. And this just takes these regular screws like everything else now takes, which is a flathead Phillips screw that's got a little, oh, what do you call them screws? So it's almost like a countersunk screw. So we can go ahead and tighten these down because this doesn't affect any alignment problems that we might have. Okay, now we can go ahead and start putting some of these in. Okay, I just noticed there is a difference in some of these screws. Some of them are a little bit bigger than the other ones. Let me sort these out. I thought they were all the same size, but I guess not. The majority of them are. but there are some that's a bigger size. Same length, just a bigger size thread. And I'm willing to bet the small ones hold this back cover on, and these bigger ones are the ones that go in here. Yep, that's what it is. So the larger size goes in these outer ones, and the smaller ones hold the covers on. So let's go ahead and put these larger ones in. Okay, that looks like a larger one right there. Yeah, because these don't go in the cover. And there's two more over here. Okay, and since these are the ones that hold the back on, we can go ahead and tighten these down now. The others just hold the back covers on, and they don't go all the way through. Okay, now let me find this back cover and we'll get that on. Okay, here's the back cover. We've got a little bit of dust here where the fan is, so I'll just take and brush that off with the brush. Okay. Now, we can get this put on and make sure I got everything here. Now, this is where we're going to have to slide this on right here where our DVI and VGA connectors come through. So, and we're also on the VGA connector, we had this little metal piece. It's like a spacer, or actually it's the ground shield for the outer cover, so we got to put that back on. And we got our little special nuts that holds those on, and there's two different sizes of those. The short ones go on the VGA input connector, and the longer ones go on the DVI input connector. Then we have to make sure we line up this garment right here into this slot right here. So let's go ahead and see if we can't line this up. All right, this is pretty easy right here. Just push that up in there. Okay. Get my driver here, my nut driver. Looking to make sure I push the record button. I'd hate to put this thing together and find out I didn't push the record button. Okay. I'll go ahead and put this in. And the other long one. And I'm just going to leave these loose for now, till I get all the other screws in. Okay. Now we got a whole bunch of screws to put in here. Okay, come on. The screwdriver's not quite magnetic enough to hold it there. I'll put these in back down here first. Really need to get my magnet and magnetize this thing. This is probably a cheapo screwdriver here, but I swear it's a good quality screwdriver. I've had it a long time now, and believe it or not, I got it free as a gift from the real Bob Roberts. I can't pronounce that word that starts with an L, where, you know, he gives you a little gift for in every order. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. But if you know who Bob Roberts was, which is a legend in the parts business and the coin-op business, which sadly he's no longer in business. But we wish him well. I hope he's doing well. I know he had some health issues, but he was getting up there in age anyway. He should have retired long ago, I guess, and just enjoyed himself, and I hope that's what he's doing. But we do miss him, so. Anyway. And I miss his moon pies. He used to put moon pies in there in the order sometimes. Like I say, if you ever ordered from him, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. Just so many screws. That's why I was hoping I didn't have to take this off. And, you know, after looking at it, I still think that I could have left this on. I'm just thinking that the thing was stuck. when I tried to lift it off, and I don't believe I would have had to have taken that off, to be honest with you. But taking it off lets you have a good idea what it looked like. So, okay, that one don't want to line up. I may have to loosen some of these up. I didn't tighten them, but I did put them down pretty hard there. So, should have knew better. Let me see if I've got one up here. It might help pull it into alignment. Alright, so far so good. Let me try this again now. There we go. Sometimes it only takes a fraction of an inch. Okay. Get these on the back side here. I was starting to panic. I got 2 screws left over, but I got 2 right here that goes in here, in this side, so we're good. I just hate it when you put something back together and you got parts left over, but luckily, so far, we haven't had that problem. Even though it's been a little over a month since we took this thing apart, it's still pretty fresh in my mind. So, not bad. Okay. Just wish I had a little more room in here. But I got caught with my Star Wars in the middle of the floor here. It got too cold on me to paint, so I'm waiting for a warm day. And of course, I had a couple warm days, but I couldn't paint with the monitor taken apart in here, so until I get this monitor back together and out of here, not a whole lot more I can do in here. So okay, and I'm pretty sure I tightened all these up. Okay. Okay, we're almost done there. Now we're going to have to snug these up. I don't want to tighten them down, but I do want to snug them up. I don't want to wring them off, but I don't want them falling out either. Of course, we're not going to use the VGA, we're going to use the DVI, because Batman uses the DVI connector here. Okay. Okay, all the screws are back in. The monitor is back together. Now we have one more thing to do. We got to put that tape around the top edge. So I'm going to get it back up on the little shelf I got on top of my game here, and we're going to start on that next. Okay, well, it's time to put this tape back on, and this is going to be kind of a jigsaw puzzle because it tore apart, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. And I reviewed my video when I took it off, and I swear the video I only see it tearing into 4 pieces. So I don't know what happened there, but anyway, I think I got it figured out. I drew a little diagram of where most of the breaks are, and I started on this corner here and worked my way around and ended here. So I'm going to start here and work my way reverse back in the other direction. So with that said, this should be where it starts. And the way I'm going to put this back on is I'm going to put the top down first and line it up on this edge, and then I'll come back and I'll put the other end down. So and hopefully it'll work out just right. I mean, I didn't have any trouble with the other one, but like I say, the other one, the seal here was a thicker seal, and it went on just a little bit differently. Although the cloth tape appears to be the same stuff. So I don't know. Okay, so we get the top pressed down, and then we'll kind of get like in the middle here, and I'll just roll the edge over. And that's that. Now I can tell, let's see, I don't think that's the one, I think this is the one. I can tell by the shape of the tear here that this matches up with this. So I can match it up where the tear is. And I'm pretty certain I got this in the right place. Okay, now comes this corner. Let's see, and this corner, I see what it was. This was my 5th piece, because I was showing it broke here in my diagram, but I didn't show it broke here. I showed it as one continuous piece. So this must have came apart after I took it off. So this next piece starts on this corner and goes all the way around to the next far corner. So that's the longest piece I got, which would be this piece right here. So this is the short side, so that's the short side here, and that's the long side which goes over there. So I think we got it now. I think what I can do is put this on here. Of course, this probably would have been a lot easier if I just got new tape and new foam seal, but oh well. I think it'll be okay. After all, once you mount it back on the monitor bezel, you're not going to see this anyway, because this foam is going to be tight against the glass. So that's why I want to get this on the edge so you can't see this metal frame if you do happen to see an edge of it, but I don't think you got to worry about that. Okay, that's looking good so far. Now I'm going to flip this around, get this edge started. Now, okay, now that lined out okay. All right, so far so good. All right, now this one here should be this piece, and then I got a short piece right here. That's over here, so this ought to be the next piece that goes on. So, and let's see. This went on the corner, right there like that. Okay. All right, now we just got this one little piece left. And yep, that looks like that lines up with that. Yep, we got it. That corner lines up too. All right, let's see now. It goes there. Okay, I think we're going to be okay. Once we put this down on the game's monitor glass, it'll flatten down on it and it should be good to go. Okay, well that's it, we're done. Now I need to set up. I'm going to put it on the table. I'm going to put power to it. And if this acts like the other one, the only thing I have to try to check it with is a Blu-ray player. And I couldn't get it to work with the Blu-ray player, the other monitor. I guess because it was just, this is preset to the game's resolution. And I don't know what the resolution is. So, but it did detect HDMI connection, which allowed me to go into the menu system, and it has a self-test. So if I can get into the menu system, we can put it in self-test, and at least we'll know whether the LEDs are working or not. So let's go ahead and set up and do that next. Okay, well, I've hooked my DVD player up to the monitor and I've turned it on, and it appears I can see a real dark, faint blue screen there. I don't know if I got a DVD player in the DVD or even if it's powered on. So I know it's not going to play the DVD, but let me see if I can power this thing on. Okay, it does have a disc in it. All right, let me see if I can get into the menu system on the monitor here, because I believe it did just say it's seen it had a DVI signal. I'm trying to find the buttons back here, and they're kind of hard to get to. Okay, yeah, there's the menu system. Contrast, okay. I don't see the okay, screen test. That's what I'm looking for. All right. There we go. So the monitor is fixed. As you can see, I got the same brightness on top and bottom. So that's all I'm looking for. So now all we have to do is pack it up, take it back to the arcade, and install it back into the game, and we'll be back in business. Let me see if I can get the menu system back on here. Maybe we'll adjust it down because it'll hold its settings, I'm pretty sure. If I can get it out of this. I'm playing blind with the buttons because I don't know what the buttons do. Okay, that's the on-off button. Okay, now it's back on DVI. There we go. Contrast. No, I want to get back to contrast. And let's bring the contrast down. I'm going to bring it down to about 30. And now let's hit the brightness. This is set at 49, so I'm going to bring the brightness down also to about 30. The reason I'm doing this is because the monitor's on so long, and if you turn the brightness and contrast down, that puts less strain on the LEDs, so hopefully that'll prevent the LEDs from prematurely going bad again. Okay, well, we're in good shape, so we'll go ahead and pack everything up and take it to the arcade. Okay, we're back at the arcade, and today we're going to be putting the monitor back into Batman. Okay, before I get started, I'd already shown you at the very beginning of this video of taking the monitor out, so I went ahead and skipped all that this time, and already taken everything loose except for the monitor bezel itself. Before I take that loose, I want to show you something that we're going to have to, it's going to matter how we put this back in. The monitor bezel is right here, and there's a recessed piece of wood right here. Well, the monitor bezel has to go up on that piece of wood. Only thing is, in order to get it up there, you can't put it up there first and then lean the monitor in towards the cabinet, because it hits those speakers. So you have to put the top in first, and then you have to pick the bottom up to push it in. Now that is the problem, because with the monitor itself weighs approximately between 20 and 30 pounds. And then this metal bezel and the safety glass in front of it, when you add that to it, you're looking at a combined weight of at least 50 pounds, if not a little more. So when this is sitting down on the wood panel here, it's hard to get anything underneath it, even your hand, and to try to pick up all that weight so that you can slide it back in there. It's just hard to do. So what I'm gonna try something different. So the last one I did was quite difficult, but I finally made it. But hopefully we'll do it a little bit easier this time. So anyway, I'm gonna take the 4 bolts out, and we're gonna take this monitor bezel and glass out of the cabinet, and we're going to put it on our table here, and then we'll be able to reinstall the monitor onto the monitor bezel. Okay, well, I've gotten the monitor bezel on the table. I've cleaned the glass off. I've cleaned the screen on the LCD monitor. So now all we have to do is set this down on here and line up these screw holes here so that we can screw the monitor to the angle brackets. So I marked this, and this is the top and this is the bottom. So I got to make sure I put the monitor on the right way. And okay, there's the bottom right there. So what I'm going to have to do is try to get it down between them brackets and line this thing up, which probably isn't the easiest thing to do. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna have to loosen this bracket up me get a socket here that's going to fit this. Okay. I'm just going to loosen these 3 nuts on these studs so that I can slide this bracket a little bit. Okay, now I need to slide it down this way. A little bit more. Pretty close, but I got to get it just a little bit more. And went a little too far with it. Okay. All right, that ought to do it. Now, before I loosen this bracket up, I was going to loosen this bracket up anyway because you can't get these screws started because it's got to compress the gasket. So that's why I loosen these up to where the bracket's loose. Now we can take our screws here. And now we can pick this bracket up a little bit so that the screws line up. And once we get all these screws in, get them lined up. Okay, now I got to loosen up the bracket on the other side. Because I don't think they're going to line up. No, they're not going to line up unless I loosen the brackets. So loosen these 3 screws. Now we can pick this bracket up so that the screws will line up. drop the screw. That one just wants to be difficult. Okay. Okay, now that I got all the screws in, I go ahead and tighten them up. Okay, all of those are tight. I'll come around here and tighten these up. Okay, now that we got those tight, we can go ahead and tighten down our nuts, and this will pull the bracket and the monitor down tight against the glass bezel. All right, I've got the 3 on the other side. Okay, now we got the monitor secured to the monitor bezel. Now we have an assembly here that weighs probably approximately 50 pounds. Could weigh a little more, might be weigh a little less, I don't know, but it's still a little bit on the heavy side as far as being awkward and having to put it in this game here. But let's go ahead and set up to put it in. Okay, well, we're ready to put this back in. And like I said before, we have to be able to put it up in the top here, behind the speaker grills. And it's got to fit on top of this lip right here. So I'm taking these 2 short pieces of wood, laying one on each side so that the bottom will sit on it, so I'll be able to get underneath the middle of it to pick it up to set it back in place. I'm going to go ahead and take one of the mounting bolts and put it in the side here so that when I put the monitor up in here, the monitor won't tilt too far back, because if it tilts too far back on an angle, it's hard to get it up on this lip right. So putting this screw in here will keep it from going back any farther. Okay, let's go ahead and do it here. See if I can get this big monster back in. let's see. Okay, here we go. Okay, now you see where it won't go in there. Even if we didn't have these here, it would still hit. So what I'm gonna have to do is pull this out. Slide it in. Okay. Now we got it close. Now I have to pick this up. And I think that might be it. Get my little flashlight. It's close, but not quite. Now it's got to go up higher than that. Okay, I'm going to use this like a little lever. There we go. Now I got it in. Without doing that, it's real hard to pick it up. So right now it should be in place. If I get this screw out, it ought to line up. Close. Let me see if the other side is close enough. Okay, that one lines up. That one lines up. See if this one lines up better now. Oh yeah, it's a little cocked in there. And that lined right up. I got where I put my screwdriver here. Okay, the hard part is done. The rest of it is just a matter of putting everything back on. Well, the next thing we have to do before we can start putting everything back together, as far as the dashboard and all, if you watched the beginning where I took everything apart, we have these LED lights that light up the instrument panel on the top panel here. And if you remember, it only had one screw in it. The other screw, I've looked all in here and I can't find it anywhere. So either somebody had already been in here and taken the screw out, or they never put it in from the factory, or if they turned the game, they would have to turn it basically on its back before it could fall through the holes. There's a hole over here and a hole over here where wires go through, and they'd have to turn the game already on its back before it would go in there. So I don't know. I just feel like maybe it wasn't there to begin with. So anyway, it's got two holes here. The screws go up through the bottom. So what I did was I matched it up, went to Lowe's, and it happens to be an 8/32 by 1 inch. So I got a pack of them here. And oh, I hate it. I should have already opened these things. They really seal these things up good. Okay, ain't too bad. So I'll get one out so you can see it's the same size. The head is a little smaller, but that's all I could find. It'll work. I also went ahead, since it comes loose, I got flat washer since this has a flat washer. So let me get a flat washer out. And the flat washer is not as big as their flat washer, but it'll work. But before I put the flat washer on, I went ahead and got some lock washers. So I figured if I put a lock washer on, maybe it won't come loose. Wishful thinking, maybe. But that's what lock washers are for. So let me get a couple out. All right. Now let me take the original. I'm going to take the washer off. Put a lock washer on. Then the flat washer. Same thing for the new one. Lock washer. And a flat washer. All right. Now I'm going to fish these wires down the hole here. And now I'm going to go ahead and get this one here started. And this one started. And that's why we need a little short screwdriver to fit up under here. Short Phillips. All right, that's back on good and tight. Now we have took the wires up. There's 2 plugs here. They're both identical, so it don't matter which goes where. It only goes one way. Okay. All right, that one plugged up. Sometimes these pins get a little bent out of whack and they don't like to line up. There we go. All right. So that's done. Now we can start putting the dashboard back on. Okay, let's go ahead and put the dashboard back on. Put the top on first.
That's it right here.
I'll start with these back 2. Get these lined up. In fact, best to get them started first, because you've got a little wiggle room where you can wiggle them around to line them up if you have to. Now got 2 in the back and got 4 across the front here. Game collects a lot of dust. Everywhere I look, I done brushed and brushed. Everywhere I look, I find more dust. Okay, all of those are started. So I'll go ahead and tighten down the back first. Okay, now get to pull the dashboard back up in place, and it's on hinges, so it just swings back up. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and snug this one down so it'll hold it in place. And now I'll go ahead and put the other 3 in. Okay. Okay, that completes the front. Now let's go around the back and hook up the monitor and put the back door on, and we can fire it up. Now we have to connect the monitor, and that's real simple because it's only 2 connections. We have our DVI connector right here, which plugs into the DVI connection. Just in an awkward position here. I gotta make sure I got it in the right direction. There it goes. Now I gotta tighten up the little thumb screws. Okay, that's connected. Now we find the power cord. Got to be here somewhere. There it is. If I can reach it. And just a standard computer type power cord. And I can't see which way it is, so I'm going to have to guess. I think it goes this way. Yep. Okay. All we got to do now is put the back door on, but before I do that, let's go ahead and fire the game up and see if the game comes up. All right, well, let's fire the game up and see what happens. Now, this game takes a while to boot up, so plug it in, fans come on, that's a good sign. And it looks like the screen is lit because we can see that dark blue background. So that's a good sign. There we go, raw thrills. So far, so good. Like I say, it's quite a long boot up on this game. When I put the monitor back in the other game, when I first plugged it in, I thought, oh no, it's not working. But I realized how long it takes to boot this thing. And there we go. And the monitor looks good and bright to me, even with the contrast and the brightness turned down. It's still plenty bright. Batman is kind of a dark type game anyway. So, looks like we have a success. Another monitor fixed. So now all we got to do is put the back door on and then I'll sum everything up. Well, we got it all back together. Got both Batmans in position. Both of them are on, working. So we've done our job here today. I know this video was kind of a long video, but I wanted to show the whole process from start to finish. And of course, putting it back in, I cut through some steps because there's no need in showing you the same thing over and over again. I showed you basically how to take it all apart, you know, in the first part of the episode. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoy it, tell a friend, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and we will be back with another arcade fix as soon as something else breaks down. So that's all for this arcade fix. Have you had your arcade fix today?